right? The first story is, you probably saw this. It was all over Twitter. It was in the media. It's all over the place. RFK Jr.'s comments about COVID-19, which got him in trouble, and accusations of, well, who knows, racism, anti-Jewish, whatever, anti-Chinese. So this is what he said, and now he said this in an informal setting. This is not in a talk. This is like around the dinner table, but with strangers, people he knows. But this is like he's talking to them, and the whole way which he talks is, and given his history, is. This guy's a conspiracy theory guy, and he's filled with them, and he believes in a lot of them, not in just a few. And he's talking about this as if this is a conspiracy theory, as if there's something shady going on here. And this is why it was interpreted the way it was. This is what he says. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. Now just stop there a second. COVID-19 is targeted. Targeted by whom? It doesn't say COVID-19 just happens, in its genetic code happens to, but it's targeted. Now that implies somebody targeted it to attack Caucasians and black people. And I go on to quote him, the people who are most immune from this targeting are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. Right? Now, was that targeted? Is that just an artifact of the virus? Is it even true? There's one paper that suggests that because of particular genes and receptors that Ashkenazi Jews and East Asians and some others are less susceptible to COVID-19 than other genetic makeups that haven't, that Caucasians, black people might have, but a lot of different ethnic groups are listed, or genetic types are listed. And it's interesting that, for example, Chinese are not mentioned in the study, East Asians are mentioned. But it is interesting that he chooses to say Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese, and he chooses to say Caucasian and black people. He chooses to make a deal out of this when it's not even clear it's true, because there's no empirical evidence backing this up. Indeed, I suspect that in Israel they would be shocked to find out that Ashkenazi Jews are less susceptible to COVID-19. Given how COVID, what COVID did in Israel, and I have not seen a single study that suggests a difference between, for example, Ashkenazi Jews and non-Ashkenazi Jews in Israel. You'd think that would be a laboratory. If you wanted to prove this point, here it is. So it just seems like, what is he talking about? And then he goes on to say, we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted or not. Well, okay, but it was still targeted, right? Then the question is, was it deliberate? How do you target something not deliberately? How do you target something not deliberately? And then he goes on to talk about engineered bio-warfare that's engineered for particular ethnicities, and the different countries are working on bioengineering, and he mentions the lab in Ukraine and stuff. I mean, this guy's a kook. Now, it could be that there's some bioengineering going on to identify particular ethnic groups. You could probably do that given the differences in genome. But evidence? Proof, God forbid? No. I mean, this is the whole point of conspiracy theories. They say something that could be possible. They quickly say, no, I don't, it might not be. They might not have targeted. It might not be, I'm not saying the Jews are behind COVID-19. I'm not saying that the elders of Zion did this. Of course not. Who knows? Yeah. But it just turns out it's always the case that this is how they spread conspiracy theories. This is how they get going. Now, he got in trouble for this, which is good, because somebody recorded it unbeknownst to him. You have to be very careful. You can't say anything now in a setting with other people and assume it won't be recorded and spread. And he said, so he posted the New York Post story where it was published is mistaken. I have never, ever suggested that the COVID-19 virus was targeted to spare Jews. Not explicitly, but certainly you were suggesting it. And he goes on, I do not believe and never implied that the ethnic effect was deliberately engineered. Well, you do say we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted, but we don't know it wasn't. Implied right there. Again, this is exactly how conspiracy theories work. This is exactly, they plant these seeds, they plant this doubt. If you mention Jews whenever you talk about some conspiratorial thing, then people, even if you don't mean it every single time, people start adding it all up. Oh, yeah, seems to be a common denominator here. It really is sick, and this guy really should be, shunned.